Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Behind me is my '09 Lexus ISF. It's my current daily driver. I've gone through a couple daily drivers since the last video I posted, which was the E90 335 diesel. After that, I got an '06 E320 CDI, which was an amazing car. I regret not making any videos on that one. And then for a short period of time, I had a 2018 BMW 340. And now I have this, so I feel like I have a pretty good background of European cars and good experience with them, so I'll give you my thoughts on this. So here it is, 2009 Lexus ISF, and the main reason I ended up with one of these is because I think the E90 M3 is one of the best cars ever made, but I kind of didn't want to play that German roulette per se and potentially have one of the big scares or nightmares happen to me with that S65 motor. So I think the only logical solution to one of those is this Lexus ISF. Those things went head to head back in '07, '08, and there's a bunch of articles and videos on the comparison between those two. But I think everyone can agree that after a decade or two, these are definitely holding up better than those. This car, like I said, has had minimal maintenance to reach the mileage that it's at. It's at 127,000 miles. That brings me to my first topic, reliability. It's a Toyota. All this thing has required is a water pump, spark plugs, coils, and oil, and one transmission fluid flush. That didn't have to be done, right? The car would still be running today without that, but I think that'll keep this car running as well as it does into the foreseeable future. But like most performance cars, there's always a catch, right? So these do have two Achilles heels. Granted, they are Toyota Achilles heels, not BMW Achilles heels. Those two would be the valve plate leak and the cracked headers. So those are both higher mileage issues, right? I think the headers are a little bit more time dependent, and the valve plate kind of just happens randomly around 100,000 miles. Mine has not shown any symptoms of it needing to be done, but it is something I do monitor, so I just keep track of that coolant reservoir, and mine sticks right in the middle between high and low. So I don't think it needs it, but when it does need it, it'll be about $1,500 to $2,000 to have it done at the dealer, which I think is pretty fair, right? To have a performance V8 sedan that will go 127,000 miles on just regular maintenance and potentially need a $1,500 repair. That's an M owner's dream, right? I'll happily pay that money to experience this car for that long. And then the other issue are the cracked headers. So basically, the material that was used to manufacture the headers is susceptible to cracking, and that will result in loud ticking noises from your motor. But that's not going to affect your drivability. People go 200,000 miles with that problem and leave it alone. It's a Toyota. It's just going to work. Now, my biggest gripe with the car is probably the comfort. Everyone talks about the stiff suspension in the pre-2010s, which that is true, right? These cars do have notoriously stiff suspensions. But something else that leads to the lack of comfort would have to be these narrow bolsters or narrow backrests of the seats. That's my hand right there. Basically, if your back is 2 inches wider than the width of my hand, which is not that wide, it's going to be getting pierced by these very sharp bolsters. Now, if you're pretty thin, these things are going to be pretty comfortable and hold you in really well. But for me, it pierces my back, and it does cause a lot of back pain, which is multiplied by the stiff suspension. Now, a couple more things to note. These things do have pretty expensive insurance premiums for what they are. And then another gripe that I have that I failed to mention is the audio system. It is an older car, so you can't really fault it. But I have the Mark Levinson system in my car, and it's just not great. Other BMWs of this era that I've had have definitely been better, but this Mark Levinson system is just not great, and from what I've read, they're kind of hard to upgrade, so kind of just left it alone, and we'll leave it alone. Just enjoy the sound of that induction noise, I guess, right? Now, my final gripe with these is the barrier to entry. Now, that is a testament to how good these cars are overall as a package, but they are pricey for what they are. An '08, '09 with sub 100K will run you mid-20s. And a really nice LSD car like a 13 or a 14, very low production cars, are going to be in the mid 30s to north of 40 sometimes. And at that point, I think they're not really good contenders with the other stuff that's out there. They are still great cars, right? Don't get me wrong, but I think they start to make less sense when you spend big money on them. I think for mid-20s to 30, they are fantastic and they're hard to beat, especially if you can fit in them, right? And they're comfortable for you. And that basically summarizes the only bad things to say about the ISF. Like I said, those two main reliability concerns, which, like I said, aren't the biggest of issues. If you've had any European car, a coolant leak and cracked headers are not the end of the world. Not much to worry about with these. You just got to maintain them, keep up with the regular maintenance intervals, and it's going to last you for a while. And then my problem, which is subjective, is the narrowness of the seats and stiffness of the suspension. I forgot to mention that can be fixed with softer riding coilovers, but out of the box, it's just almost unbearable, especially if you're doing high-speed highway driving, because, you know, those bumps are going to be even more pronounced with the stiff suspension. Now let's get into the good stuff, because there's a lot to say. So honestly, something that blew me away with this car is the MPG. I consistently, routinely get 21 to 22 MPG in this car. A 5-liter V8 making 430, 440 horsepower. Mine has a tune-in intake. I know it doesn't do much, but it does something. Impressive. It blew me away. I thought I was going to be filling this thing up constantly, but it honestly returns the same MPG as most other turbo i6 motors. So that's a huge pro for me. And that's a testament to the Lexus and Toyota engineering. It's just fantastic. In 8th gear cruising on the highway, you can even get closer to 28, 29. I've seen people get north of 30 if you really feather it. So that's just a testament to this car. It's the engineering behind this thing is just very impressive. Secondly, induction sound. I'm gonna have to show you that on video because it's hard to put into words, but especially with this intake, is just fantastic. I have yet to own a car that sounds this good under load with no exhaust. It sounds so good. Big part of this car is the transmission. I think it's aged wonderfully. I can't imagine how good this was for an auto back in 2007 when these came out, late 2007. You don't feel these shifts, right? Like, it just went 1 through 4. I didn't feel a single one. It's just very smooth, very buttery. When you put it into sport, it'll drop a gear sooner and hold gears longer and shift a little later. But again, 5, 6, you don't feel them. It's just straight butter. And what's great about the transmission is that at wide open throttle, the torque converter will lock. And, you know, if you're getting into it, you really get some crisp, quick shifts, which I'll show you in a little bit. It's just a great auto, especially for being 14 years old. Fantastic engineering behind this box. And it's reliable. It just needs fluid flushes and it holds up. Can't speak on really modified motor and transmission durability, but for just being basically stock with the tune and an intake, it shifts beautifully and shifts probably just the way it did in 2009. And finally, the last thing that really just blows me away with this car is kind of a con, right? I said the suspension is too stiff, but on smooth roads, when you're getting on it, driving spiritedly, the suspension really shines. It keeps the car planted as hell, and it really hides the speed that you're traveling at. And especially through corners, it feels very nice through corners. It hides its weight, hides its size, hides the speed you're traveling at. These cars really shine on smooth road. It's a shame that I don't use it for that purpose, right? I use it every day on highways and bumpy roads and through traffic. So the downsides to having a suspension, I feel those more than the positives to having that very stiff ride. But when I am driving it the way this was designed to be driven, it really shines in that regard. Thanks for watching, guys. I know this is kind of a monotone, just really talky video, but I wanted to share my opinion on this car, kind of talk about the really kind of overblown issues that people mention, the valley plate and the headers, and I wouldn't be worried about those. If you find a nice one that you like and the valley plate hasn't been done like mine, I say just send it. And if it needs it, you know, top off the coolant until you're able to have it done and enjoy the car. These things are just great value for the money. Like I said, sub 30K, they're great. Try to drive them before you buy one, because, you know, I learned the hard way that I don't fit in the seat. But other than that, and the small complaints about the stiff ride, it's just a reliable, fantastic sounding, fantastically engineered car, and it just speaks lengths to the Toyota as a brand and what they're capable of doing when they design a performance car. Hopefully I make a couple more of these with this car, but it may be sold here in the next week. So if this is it, this is it. Whatever I get next, I'll try to make some videos on that, but I'm gonna try to be more active on this because I really do enjoy making these videos, and I like sharing my opinions and experiences that I have with cars. And I've had quite a few now, probably like 15 or maybe 12, I lost count, but I'm gonna try to make more videos of these because it is fun to share my life experiences with you know, rare cars that you don't see every day and people aren't using every day to commute to work and just do regular stuff in. So I feel like these videos can be valuable to those out there shopping for one. And there you go. Thank you.